The sunlight hitting the polished hood of the cherry-red Ferrari was almost blinding in the quiet afternoon heat of an upscale Atlanta suburb. Standing beside the vehicle was 74-year-old Margaret Brooks, gently adjusting her knit cardigan as she checked the parking meter. Maggie was a woman whose face carried the quiet lines of a long life filled with hard work, patience, and dignity. She didn't look like someone who owned an exotic Italian sports car, and in the minds of those watching, that was her only crime. Within minutes, a local police cruiser pulled up to the curb, tires screeching against the asphalt. Officer Tyler stepped out, adjusting his duty belt, his eyes fixed on Maggie with immediate suspicion. He didn't ask for her identification. He didn't ask if she needed assistance. Instead, he rested his hand on his holster and barked a cold, loud command that echoed across the crowded sidewalk. "Hands behind your back, right now!" Maggie didn't panic. She didn't raise her voice. She slowly turned around, her hands steady, and said with a calm, quiet grace, "Officer, the registration in the glove box has my name on it, Margaret Brooks." Officer Tyler laughed, a harsh, mocking sound that drew a crowd of onlookers. Dozens of smartphones were pulled from pockets, glowing screens flashing as bystanders recorded the scene, expecting a moment of public embarrassment. "A woman like you driving a $200,000 Ferrari?" Tyler sneered, tightening the steel handcuffs around her fragile, aged wrists until the metal clicked into place. "Tell it to the judge, Grandma." Nobody stepped forward to defend her. The crowd watched in silence as the elderly black woman stood handcuffed beside the gleaming red car, her head held high, refusing to let them see her spirit break. While Tyler radioed for a flatbed tow truck, his partner, Officer Rachel, opened the driver's side door of the Ferrari to retrieve the vehicle details. She pulled out the leather-bound owner's manual and opened the official state registration document. Printed clearly in bold black ink were the words, "Margaret Brooks." Rachel froze. She looked at the document, then looked back at Maggie, whose wrists were already turning red under the tight steel cuffs. Rachel leaned over to her partner and whispered urgently, "Tyler, look at this. The paperwork is completely clean. It's registered to her. Unlock her right now." Tyler barely glanced at the paper, his pride overriding any sense of duty or justice. "It's a fake," he snapped, waving his hand dismissively. "Probably stolen credentials from some identity theft ring. She stays cuffed until dispatch runs the VIN." Maggie turned her head slightly toward the officers. Her voice remained soft, filled with the profound composure of someone who had lived through decades of racial injustice and refused to be humbled by arrogance. "Officer, if you won't check the record properly, allow me my right to make one single call." Tyler smirked, pulling his department-issued phone from his belt and holding it out toward her face on speaker. "Go ahead, Grandma. Call whoever you think is going to save you from a felony auto theft charge." Maggie looked directly into the camera lens of the nearest bystander's phone, spoke a single name into the officer's receiver, and said quietly, "Marcus, they've stopped me on Main Street." To understand Margaret Brooks is to understand the unspoken sacrifices of millions of black mothers across American history. Born in a small, segregated rural town in Georgia during the late 1950s, Maggie grew up knowing the cruel weight of prejudice. When her husband passed away young, leaving her with 3 small children and a mountain of medical debt, Maggie took on 3 jobs. She cleaned office buildings in the dead of night, washed linens at a local hospital during the early morning, and worked double shifts at a diner on weekends. Her hands became rough, her back grew tired, and her own dreams were quietly put away in a drawer so her children's dreams could take flight. She sacrificed new clothes, proper shoes, and warm meals for herself so her eldest son, Marcus, could attend law school. She taught her children that true strength is not found in anger or loudness, but in unshakable integrity, education, and unwavering self-respect. What Officer Tyler didn't know was that the red Ferrari wasn't stolen, nor was it a luxury bought out of vanity. It was a retirement gift, a tribute delivered just 3 days prior from a son who had never forgotten the cold nights his mother worked in the rain so he could have a future. Marcus had bought her absolute dream car, placing a custom license plate on the back that simply read, "Mom's Gift." Tyler's arrogance had made him blind to the truth, but the consequences of his actions were already moving toward Main Street at terrifying speed. Less than 4 minutes after Maggie's phone call ended, a low rumble echoed in the distance, growing louder until the ground beneath the sidewalk began to vibrate. At the far end of Main Street, the afternoon traffic was abruptly pushed aside as 4 blacked-out armored federal command vehicles turned the corner, their high-intensity blue and red strobe lights flashing against the storefront glass. Behind them rode 4 motorcycle escorts, clearing the intersection with blaring sirens. The crowd went completely silent. Bystanders lowered their phones in shock as the convoy ground to a halt, completely boxing in Officer Tyler's police cruiser and the red Ferrari. The heavy door of the lead Suburban swung open. A tall, imposing black man in his late 40s stepped out, wearing a tailored navy suit with an official federal gold pin pinned to his lapel. Behind him, armed federal tactical agents stepped out in formation, their faces cold and focused. Margaret Brooks, the newly appointed director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, walked directly past the stunned crowd. He didn't look at the police cruiser. He didn't look at the crowd. His eyes were fixed entirely on the frail, elderly woman standing handcuffed in the sun. Officer Tyler stepped forward, his face turning pale as he realized the rank of the officials standing in front of him. "Sir, this is a local traffic stop. We have a suspect in custody." Marcus didn't even slow his stride. He walked straight past Tyler, stepping directly up to Maggie. His stern, powerful expression instantly melted into one of deep concern and profound tenderness. He reached out, gently wrapping his arms around her shoulders. "Mom?" Marcus asked, softly, his voice trembling slightly with emotion. "Are you all right?" The street was so quiet you could hear the wind rustling through the trees. Officer Tyler stood frozen, his jaw dropped in absolute shock, his confidence completely destroyed in a single second. The bystanders who had been recording broke out into hushed, gasping whispers, their cameras capturing every second of the historic power shift. Marcus turned around slowly to face Officer Tyler. The tenderness in his eyes vanished, replaced by a cold, searing fury that made the officer take an instinctual step back. "Take those cuffs off my mother," Marcus commanded, his voice low, steady, and carrying the full weight of federal authority. "Right now." Tyler's hands shook so violently he dropped the key twice onto the hot pavement before finally unlocking the steel bracelets. Maggie gently rubbed her sore wrists, offering no harsh words, no insults, and no anger. She simply looked at the young officer with a quiet, sorrowful pity. "You looked at my skin, young man, and you looked at this car, and you decided that a woman like me couldn't possibly have earned something good. I hope today teaches you that a person's worth is never written on their clothes or their skin. It is written in their character." Marcus placed his arm around his mother, guiding her gently into the passenger seat of his federal vehicle. Before stepping in himself, he turned back to Tyler and his partner. "Your chief of police will be receiving a formal federal summons by tomorrow morning. Every camera on this street recorded what happened here today." As the federal convoy pulled away, escorting the red Ferrari down Main Street, the crowd broke into applause. Margaret Brooks rode away not as a victim of prejudice, but as a testament to the enduring power of a mother's sacrifice, proving to a watching world that true dignity can never be stolen.